Commissioner Moya.
Here.
Commissioner Villanueva. Commissioner Arias.
Here, sorry. I was gonna say,
First item for discussion is regarding the houseboat, and we have, Randy Bates here to talk to us about it, so I'm gonna turn it over to him, unless Mark, you have anything you want to say?
No, ma'am, I'll wait till Randy gets his presentation, and then, I've asked Police Chief to say a few words as well here.
Okay, all right.
No, thank you for having me. And once again, let me just emphasize I'm here on my own behalf.
Okay.
Only because I have knowledge of this houseboat,
Uh-huh.
sadly. So I was the superintendent at Conchas Lake State Park. I'm now the superintendent at Hyde Memorial State Park up in Santa Fe. So I dealt specifically with the closure of the previous concession, the North Dock concession, and all the stuff that was left behind. So this particular houseboat was up in the dry storage lot, and it fell to me as the superintendent to get rid of all the stuff that was left behind. Unfortunately, the bond that the concessionaire should have had was expired, so my goal was, the taxpayers have already spent enough money. We don't need to incur more funds to get rid of other people's property. So there was probably 40 to 50 vehicles, boats, trailers, mobile homes that were left behind. So there was an auction. The auctioneer sold whatever they could have that belonged to them, and all this other stuff just got left behind in the park. And so I'd worked with Ed Wright, the concessionaire, the manager of the concession, and we were able to get some documents, and slowly but surely we were able to winnow it all down. And in the end, there was 3 owners that didn't want to get their stuff out of the park. And so working with my agency and the district attorney's office in San Miguel, we did file criminal charges against 3 people. Mr. Napier, the owner of the houseboat, was one of them. And it was a long journey to get to that. And so I had some sketchy documents from the concessionaire, and so I reached out to Mr. Napier like everybody else, sent him notices. And so when he didn't reply to the notice, I had a stack of people in Albuquerque that own things out there. And so the district attorney had recommended that, before you get to criminal proceedings, they have to have notice.
Right.
He said, so go serve them personally. So I drove to Mr. Napier's house. He was like the last one of the day. And just to present them, and a copy of that letter is in the package there, and say, okay, And so his son came out and said, oh yeah, my dad will take care of it. Can you send me some people or some names of some folks that do that kind of work? So there's an email in there that I sent to his son, Ryan, like saying.
Local towing and.
Right.
Yeah,
And so then the
yeah.
next thing is there's a letter from Mr. Napier that says he never owned a houseboat. He may have ridden on a houseboat, and it's kind of where at that point I'm like, okay, we don't really have much. But then I discovered this ledger book from Ed Wright, and it was from the previous concessionaire, Mary Jenkins, and that's in the package. And so it's not really evident here, but so his name is up top, and then it was like a sticker that was placed over the previous owner, who happened to be the Tuckers. And so some more sleuthing, and I was able to reach out to Christine Tucker. And so she told me the whole story, that her and her husband, who has passed away, did own this houseboat. She ran for district attorney when there was an opening here in Clay.
Yeah, you lost.
And then she wasn't successful, and then they decided to move to Albuquerque. So it was about that time, that's when it all happened, which kind of matches up with the dates. And then Mr. Napier did, write to the concessionaire like, yeah, here's payment for my houseboat. So then, even the district attorney felt very comfortable in filing charges. The other cases were a lot more locked down. So, we filed charges and went to court, and at some point, it kind of got dragged out. He hired a private attorney, which is his right. And they kind of contested it for a while. And then one day, Mr. Napier files through his attorney. He's like, I was looking through my files and I found the title to the boat. And he's like, see, it proves I don't own the boat because it was in the previous owner's name. And I remember the conversation with the district attorney on the phone. I'm like, yeah, the title's gonna say the Tuckers at Monroe Street in Tucumcari. He's like, how'd you know that? I'm like, because that was the previous owner. And I said, people don't give titles to other people just for safekeeping. You know, that's the exchange of ownership. One of the things I wanted to charge him with was failure to register the boat after purchase. You know, the district attorney, the assistant district attorney didn't want to go that way. So I was like, that's fine. The goal was to get the boat out of the park. And so eventually in January of 2019, we reached a stipulated dismissal. Mr. Napier, agreed to remove the boat from Conchas Lake State Park and that we would waive on behalf of the park, actually the taxpayers of New Mexico, any storage fees, fines, everything. So he had no financial cost at the end of it other than removing the boat. And then one day they came and took the boat.
Yeah.
And that was a great day.
For you.
No, and I mean, and as I said, if I had any idea that he wouldn't properly dispose of it, I would put that into the dismissal.
Yeah.
So he left. I transferred up to Hyde Memorial and reading the Quay County Sun early one morning, I saw the story of a houseboat dumped in Tucumcari and just a little picture. So thank God for the Quay County Sun. And no, I was very upset. I was like, dang it.
And he dumped it on another taxpayer.
And so I did reach out to the previous city manager, and then when I saw another article recently, I was like, okay, you know, I feel like I should come tell you what I can.
When you give it to the other city manager, what happened?
I think it was towards his.
No, I don't think so. It was
was-
before that.
Yeah, it was,
Long before that.
I don't know.
I just quit.
You could ask him.
right. We know.
But I did send it to him, and I think he had an assistant or a.
Yeah, that lady.
Yeah.
Lucille.
Lucille?
Lucille.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my wife. That's why I remember.
Oh, okay.
So I sent it to both of them, and, you know, I just assumed it was taken care of. You know, and then I saw the article again with your comments, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make another phone call. And so that's what brings me here today. But no, my dealings with Mr. Napier was you know, he's not gonna accept responsibility, and only, you know, with the force of it. I mean, think about it. You know, a criminal, so he's got criminal charges that were filed against him because he didn't want to take care of his property. And as I explained to several folks, you know, as I reached out to people and worked, and, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, you own this piece of property, whether it was a boat, a mobile home or something at Conchas Lake, the concessionaire's gone, it's our responsibility. And some people said, I don't have the money to, you know, I don't even have money for gas to come out there and look at it. I said, okay, we'll work with you. And then even with Mr. Napier, I said, you know, if you say you want to get rid of it, give me permission to do it, I will do the rest of the work. And we did that with several different pieces of junk that were left behind. He just didn't want, so there is a letter where he said, I'd love to give you permission to do that, but I don't own it. And that was in that letter that he wrote.
I saw that.
Right, and I was like, okay, well, if you're not gonna even, you know, work with me, then you don't leave us a whole lot of options. And so we did get rid of all that stuff with those three, and he, you know, he fought it all the way, which is his right, but he is the owner.
Yeah.
Well, he took ownership when he went ahead and pulled it out, made
Yes,
the
he
deal that he pulled it out.
Well, no, that was, right, so that was part of the dismissal. That
He took
agreed-
ownership at that point.
Right, he agreed it was his, he signed off on it. And,
Yeah.
So the actual, so that there's a criminal complaint and a stipulated order of dismissal that would be in the court pleadings, and that's about it. There wasn't a whole lot of other stuff that went on,
So actually, all these documents are at the DA's office in
Tom Clayton is the district attorney that handled it.
He worked with me in the beginning and then turned it over to Alan.
Well, I saw
Smith.
Goose's name and somebody else there, Alan.
Alan Smith was
Yeah.
the assistant, and he's since left that.
Tom,
But Tom's still there, right?
Tom's still there.
No, he'll be the
Remember, right?
attorney shortly.
Yeah.
And I did see him the other day when I picked up the stuff.
Uh-huh.
And.
Because he's running for district attorney, I guess Lotus didn't run again.
Has Chief reviewed these documents as well?
No, I'm not forwarded to,
We'll go into him. But the
Because
whole
we just
deal,
got them tonight, so.
yes, but what happened, and then after that, he came, he got dumped in the middle of the street. He really didn't even get dumped on the side street or nothing. As you come over the track, in the middle of the street was dumped, and it became a safety hazard at that point. And so what happens is it remained there until the neighborhood started really getting upset about it and wanted it removed. And they were angry about it. So I think that the city police went over and tagged it with tickets and it was left at that, you know what I mean? And then finally the city had to take the initiative to get our city crew and lift up that heavy load without the proper equipment and tow it a few blocks to city-owned property. Well, it was sat there for a while, and then again, the wind blew it and started everything coming apart. So the neighborhood really went, again, angry at the fact that the kids were playing on it. This thing was flying all over the place. And this illegal gentleman who illegally dumped the boat on there wouldn't take responsibility for it. But we never contacted him. That's the biggest problem, because actually, I think there was a lot of question who the ownership was. But the problem is, it had no vending number, but they didn't do the research because it came out of conscious. They should have done the research because they would have been documented in the dock up there.
Oh yeah, that was, I do, so one of the things that stifled us figuring that one out, I mean, it was kind of like a big puzzle with a lot of them. I don't remember that the boat had a hull identification number, HIN, or we could never find it. In the trailer, I don't think we could find a VIN on the trailer.
Well, they'd taken it all off. They filed it all down.
But, so, I don't know if, sometimes, you know, if it's a homemade version, we could have stuck it somewhere.
But this isn't a homemade.
No, and so one of the things, so I had to do a summary for the criminal complaint, and one of the things I wanted to charge him with was littering, because that thing would blow apart and there were
Right.
pieces all over the
Yeah,
park.
but you left it all over the neighborhood here.
But, you know, they wanted to keep it short and simple, that's their job, my job was to push it forward, but, no,
Well, it's a mess, because
Yeah.
now what happened, it came into another community and dumped and became a problem. The man is irresponsible. It created a safety hazard. If the city hadn't had to take the initiative of moving it, somebody would run into it, because you come over the tracks and it's right there where you dumped it, on the middle of it. It's not even a shoulder part of the street, it was on the street. So this guy had no consideration for anybody else, or any safety of anybody other than himself.
And then Todd had it moved to the city where
Yeah,
it's
the
behind
fence.
a fence, right? What?
it's one of our blanks, I don't know who's.
What is it, the street guy, what's his name?
Alex?
No, the brother to the commissioner. They call him
Tomas.
Tomas.
Oh, come on. Oh.
I think they're the
He's a
crew.
parks guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're the crew that they used to move it out.
Streets out too, I think, I don't know exactly who's involved, but I know Streets is who I had reached out to.
I saw it when they were pulling it, and I saw him there. That's why I know, when they were moving it. And I go, uh-oh. And so I thought they were going to throw it to Carey Lake, but no. Because they're going that direction. No, they moved it over to the
City,
Back.
to the broom factory, yeah.
So what I'd like to know, give us some pointers on how do we approach it, since you've gone through it, and it's a great that you.
Yeah.
You have the
What do we do?
experience.
Right, I mean, if you're asking my opinion,
Yes.
having worked with him, he's gonna dodge and
Deny.
weave and bob out of it. No, I think filing a criminal complaint speaks for itself. I mean, the fact that we had to go to that great length to do that. And, you know, he still wanted to fight it in court, and he hired an attorney. And ultimately, you know, at the end of the day, he did accept ownership of it.
Right.
Begrudgingly.
And that's great.
And then, but he didn't do the right thing.
No, I didn't.
And
The gentleman's 72, so we better decide pretty quick what we're gonna do. I'm not saying it's old, but it's.
Excuse me,
You know how things can drag out in court.
But he always has an estate that you can go after.
right, no, and so my point was, as the state employee, and I'm here on my personal behalf, but also a taxpayer of New Mexico,
Mhm.
why should I have to pay for somebody who has the means to pay for it?
right,
And that would be the bottom line. It's like, somehow I would say he needs to be held financially accountable, because that was part of the deal up at the state park is, we'll waive all that, you just do the right thing, take it away.
And then he turns around and again goes after taxpayers and reloads them.
Right. And he may have hired somebody, or who knows, I don't know.
Well, ultimately, he's responsible, but this wasn't just a case of littering. He actually left it on a city street that could have caused
could
harm.
have caused harm,
You know, it could have been a lot worse than anything that we can imagine. And at the time, we wouldn't even know who to go to. And
Well, right, because he didn't have a plate on the trailer, right?
No,
That
he took
took
all
all
that
that
stuff. We-
Right, and I remember when so one of the mysteries for me was that, why was it named Miss Kissy?
Yeah.
That's when I talked to Ms. Tucker, she was like, that was her nickname.
Yeah.
And so her husband named it for that, and I'm like, okay, we definitely have the right boat.
And not only that, yeah.
No, because I do, without that identification number, which is a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
Because it has to have an identification number, but.
And how he got away with it, I don't
Right.
understand.
So I also want to charge him with failure to file title. So he deprived the taxpayers of that, because there's a fee for that. And then he didn't register the boat for all those years. He didn't pay storage to the concessionaire, and a part of that gets remitted to the state to run the state parks. So,
Well, this guy is.
he's made out like a bandit already.
Yeah.
And
so does he have the original certificate of title?
he must, yeah.
Because this has to be a fake back here. This can't be attached to the same title.
What do you?
Well, there's no signature on the back saying it was sold.
Yeah, that, I don't, he never presented the title for us to inspect.
And for
Yeah,
her being
that's
an
what-
attorney,
right.
it's unbelievable.
Well, she did say, I'll call her Christine Tucker. She did say that she had left all that to her husband.
No, I'll be honest with you, what happens is you can go into the Department of Motor Vehicle and get a title right now. And if was not registered, then the original title, somewhere or other, he has it. This is a print off on the Department of Motor Vehicle, because it has the, that's what it is. It's a print out from the Department of Motor Vehicle, and when you have the Department of Motor Vehicle, it would show what's in there. So what happened is, it does not have the one that she signed over to him.
It's
He
Bob.
got a copy of the back of one.
Yeah, $15 you can
Yeah.
get the
Right.
title out of the state of New Mexico. So actually, he has the one where she signed it over to him.
I don't think we even knew the whole identification number until he presented the title.
But he didn't present us, yeah.
And so part of the other problem was, I think there was a registration number on the boat somewhere. But the state of New Mexico purged old boat registrations from the system at some point. So we couldn't even track it down that way. But and then the concessionaire didn't keep good records. But we eventually pieced it all together, met the bar with the district attorney in San Miguel County to file criminal, because they weren't gonna file criminal charges if they didn't have a solid case. So we met that burden, we went forward, and I think that's where we are.
Okay.
So, Chief, does this new information kind of help get us to be able, we can go after him again?
Short answer? Maybe.
That's better than no, right?
I'd say no, but it's a maybe.
So, Mark, were you gonna say something else?
I was gonna let Chief talk. So we had a brief meeting this afternoon. We kind of discussed this. And yes, we can file a criminal complaint, but there's when we look at the fines and what we can actually get out of this if we try to go fine an individual, based on the chief's research, he said, we're only looking at receiving $50 for the fine. So my thought process is, yes, we want to hold people accountable. We want to get this thing resolved and put it back on the rightful owner to dispose of it properly. But how much is the city of Tucumcari willing to put forth? And maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, but if we take it, knowing with Mr. Napier's background, and we take it to court, short of us being able to recover some kind of attorney fees, are we willing to spend thousands of dollars for something that overall, if we win the case, we may get $50 out of it? And
Actually, we will not get $50. We have storage fees that we have to, we have the personnel that went to pull it out of it. We have a lot of expenses on there that can actually be added on. With the regulation department, when they deregulated the towing company, there's a lot of differences on the fees that you can charge. And actually, if we're storing it, we should recuperate it. If we have attorney fees, they should be added on. Mr. Napier has means, and there's no reason why this city needs to be losing of any kind. And this whole deal is, if we're going to allow Mr. Napier to get away with it, why are we bothering the other people? You know what I mean? This is the whole deal. Is this guy has means to be able to again reimburse what the expense are. This is a case that's already being tried. It's not going to be that hard to take to court. The whole deal is, when we put the ticket on there, we should have done all this research, because we didn't do the research. Now we're having a problem, you know. And all we had to do was call conscious, look at the conscious, and find who was working with that, because I knew there was other boats that were being moved out of there, because we go up there. So the whole deal is that, no, it's not $50 we'll get. We'll have to go after a whole lot more than just $50. The whole deal is, we got storage, whether it be $10, $50 a day, whatever we want to do to any of the other things, we have to go after this. This is the thing that I don't like. The idea is, we go after local people, but other people from out of town get away with everything. And if he has means, then he needs to pay for it.
Go ahead.
I wanted to hear from Chief as
Oh,
well.
okay.
Okay. You got a two-pronged problem.
Got a what?
You got a two-pronged problem.
Okay.
Let me boil it down for you. There's all the ordinances we violated, okay?
That we violated?
No, this guy,
Okay.
whoever. Got a list. I missed one, I realized when I was sitting there. You got a criminal path and you got a civil path. To recover the kind of costs you're talking about, you're gonna have to file civil tort. You're gonna have to sue him civilly and hope you can win. If you're gonna talk about taking him to court and holding him criminally accountable, we are not the state. We are not the conscious lake. We also have other issues in that he has claimed that he had it hauled away by someone unknown. We will not win the criminal case. I'm telling you before you start.
Why would we win that current case?
Okay, you want to tell me how court works, or you want to listen to what I have to say?
Go ahead, because I'm beginning to question what you're saying, but go ahead.
I've been round and around with this kind of thing.
Well, so have I.
Okay, let him talk.
Let's imagine that we win the court case. Let's just imagine that, okay? We win. Which city ordinance are we charging him under? How many? We're gonna get $50. That's it. And unless the judge does something to make him remove it, we still have to dispose of it. It doesn't say that he has to remove it. He gets fined for putting it there. We're gonna be in the same place. Now, if you really want the money and you want to make him do it, sue him civilly. You can't do it through criminal court. It'll never fly. That's my opinion. But
My question is, when you place those tickets in there, why wasn't there research done to find out who was the owner problem? Because if somebody is given a ticket, I'm just supposed to go to court, and if they don't show up in court, isn't that?
there's several different ways that we could have approached this. We tried to make it simple, working with the former city manager. I told him how to get rid of the boat. He didn't want to do it the way I told him. I said, okay, we'll do it this way. We'll tag it. We'll wait so many days. It's not moved. We can have a tow company tow it. The problem with that is no tow company would take it. They don't want it. And they won't take it unless they want it. So I told the city manager at the time how to deal with it then, how to get rid of it. He told me, no, we're gonna get a title. We're gonna find the owner. We're gonna do all this nonsense. That's when all that started. Nobody listens when I tell them the easy way to do it.
Well, he has the information, because it's all your concern.
Now, if I have a car parked on the street and I tag it, after so many days I have it towed, I don't do research. I don't look up to see if it was at Conscious Lake or Santa Fe or any place else. If it's got a VIN, I run it to see who the owner is, try to contact it. There is no VIN to run. So I don't run around the state trying to find out where it came from.
No, but the whole
That's
deal
silly.
is, it's a towing company that does that, but in this case, the towing company.
The towing company tries to contact the owner by state law. They have to contact the owner directly. It doesn't matter because they wouldn't take it. The
That's
city
what I'm saying,
manager
so
at
he
the
calls
time
back on the city.
decided we were gonna do it this way, and that it was gonna be removed by city people to get it off the street. That's his decision. I'm telling you what you're dealing with now. I can't change what was done before.
I understand that, but if we're gonna give tickets and not even enforce it, why even bother? What will happen to the highway department when you guys have to deal with cars standing on the side of the road? I see you guys there all the
We
time.
write them up,
And
and
then,
then we take the permission to state police, and then they give them like a day or two to remove. If they don't remove it.
you remove it?
No, the tow company picks them up.
Now,
Okay.
look at what's going on right now today. We can blame people that used to work here that don't anymore. We can blame the people that work here now. I don't really care. You've got two paths to take. You can go down the criminal path, and if you win, get $50. If you go down the civil side of it and sue, you can recover attorney fees. You're not a licensed towing company. You can try to get storage fees, but that's quicksand. You're treading in soft area. Now, you can say you spent so much money getting it hauled off the street and try to recover that. That's up to a judge in civil court. Okay, so you got two ways to go.
Well.
You come to the Y in the road, you gotta take it.
And then what happens to the tickets you gave? You never sent out a warrant for his arrest or anything?
We didn't know
Well,
who, we didn't know who
Who
owned it.
was at that time.
Judge would have to.
Oh, that's why they didn't go,
Yeah.
but they should have done research and found out.
Well,
No, we don't do that. That's not how that works. You can tag it,
Yeah.
the tow company tows it. That's it. We don't research it and try to find somebody and write them a ticket. It's not how that works. That may be how it works some places.
No, I mean, there would have been no way to know who the owner was
No,
because,
but you had a history of where it came from.
no, I know, but I mean, without a whole identification number or a VIN on the trailer,
No way to identify.
there's no, right, no tag,
Also,
the registration number, I mean, those are all the roadblocks that we hit.
So I understand that you gave this information to the previous city manager?
At some point,
Yeah.
Did he ever forward that over to you, chief?
if somebody borrows my car and goes and robs a liquor store, I don't get arrested for robbery. If this man paid someone to haul that boat off and that person dumped it in Tucumcari, you will never hold the owner responsible. You can't do it. It's the same thing. Okay?
But he's withholding, he has to know who towed that boat. He didn't file, a stolen vehicle or boat. And I agree with you, it's for $50, but there's a principle here.
Okay.
We've
I think
ticketed
the city
people
manager had
locally.
a very good point. Do you want to spend $5,000 or $6,000 to get $50? That's the decision that the commission has to make. That's not my decision.
That would
I
be
have
civilly
to-
though, spending $5,000 or $6,000, that'd be if we went civilly. criminally, I don't recall the city having to pay criminally to go after somebody that
I
actually
can,
broke the
I
law.
can subpoena him all day long. If he doesn't come to court and he lives far enough away, the judge is not gonna issue an extradition order for me to bring him to town. You are butting your head on a brick wall because you want it to be a certain way. Now, I'm willing to do whatever the commission wants to do. I'm advising you not to do that. But
So,
that's,
in other words, anybody locally that gets another nuisance ordinance ticket, we should not try to enforce it.
we try to enforce it all the time.
No, but
However,
if we don't hold one accountable, we can't hold nobody accountable.
Yeah.
I know it's $50.
You
But
can't
it's
prove
the
that the
principle.
owner of the boat dumped it here. You can't prove he did it. My cousin robs a liquor store driving my car. They can't prove that I had knowledge of the robbery. You're talking about the same thing. You know he did it. We all may know he did it, but you can't prove that he did it. That's why I'm saying you'll not win it in criminal court.
Is that what you're thinking too, Randy? I mean,
Well, he is a shrewd individual, Mr. Lincoln. And I mean, I think that would be his argument. Well, I paid somebody. Well, who'd you pay? I don't know. I found him on Craigslist.
But it's still responsible for it.
Yeah, that part.
that's,
I mean, it would almost, at some point, it would almost be worth towing it to his house and putting it in
And dumping it there.
I mean, if you're gonna
That's
spend
an
money.
idea.
And I gave the city manager the easy way to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah,
He looked at me and said, we don't want to pay city employees to do that.
Right. he argued with me on that too.
And actually, there was a tow company willing to get rid of it.
You know,
And he
So-
argued,
you know,
with me a
it's
bunch on that.
not really, you know,
So then chief, so earlier you had mentioned that according to our ordinance, that there's not even a way for us to make him get rid of it if we want, is that correct?
Right.
So is this another example of our ordinances need to be reviewed?
we have an abundance of non-ordinances. We have ordinances that should exist that don't. We have ordinances that drastically need redone. Our parking ordinances are a huge example. We have animal control ordinances that no longer exist. We have code enforcement ordinances that no longer exist. I can go on about the things you can do in Tucumcari that are legal because there's no ordinance that
So
are illegal in
actually-
every other city.
I got a lot of property in town. I always get tickets anyway. But the whole deal is if I say I paid Todd to clean them, then I'm not liable anymore. Because that's exactly what he's saying, because he paid somebody to tow it, then it's not liable.
In criminal court, that's where he'll beat you. He will beat you in criminal court because of that. Now, in civil court, you might convince the judge because it's a different standard of
We might
proof.
have to look at
The
civil.
civil court is a preponderance of the evidence. The judge can do a balancing act, and if the judge says, yeah, you're responsible by 1%, they'll rule that way. In criminal court, you have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not 1%, it's 90%.
Okay, I got a question for you. What happened if somebody would hit it that night?
I can hear you, sir.
So what happened if somebody would hit it?
City would have been liable.
Would the city have been liable?
if somebody had come around the corner and hit it when it was parked in the street.
You know, they could make a civil case on that if it had been there for a long time and we had known about it. But, you know, the way it was parked against the curb, whether it's stuck under the traffic or not, we have very few parking lots in Tucumcari. You can't park on railroad tracks. You can't park in the middle of the road blocking traffic. You can park facing the wrong direction. You know, all you want. We don't have any parking ordinances about that. There's a lot of things we don't have ordinances about. Everybody's talking about a boat. This is not really a boat. What you're looking at is a trailer. It doesn't matter whether there's a boat on that trailer or a refrigerator on that trailer or a toolbox on that trailer, because it's a trailer. And that's what we have to be looking at. It's a trailer. So we have to be looking at trailers parked on the street. It's not a boat, it's a trailer. The boat just happens to be on it. Okay?
Well, it was right as they come over, it was in a very dangerous spot. That's why the city had to take the steps to take it out of the way for the safety of the resident. And that's why they were upset about
So then, Chief, again, so you mentioned that, so really in a nutshell, your recommendation isn't to pursue this criminally, it's to pursue it civilly.
If you want to do something civil, it's the only way, I think your only option.
And you said that
That
we,
makes sense.
and you said that we can regain loss.
If you prevail, if you win, you can recover your expenses, your attorney fees, and whatever else you can convince the judge is legitimate. But that's strictly up to the judge.
Personally, I like the idea of paying somebody to tow it up to his house.
But, you know, from years and years of seeing these things go through criminal
Well,
trials.
actually, can we do both? Actually, because he didn't take care of the tickets that were placed on there. Now we know who the owner is. Can we do both? We can do civil as well as criminal, because, you know, in one area, we're talking about city ordinance and abandonment, and then the other one is civil that we can look at.
So Chief, there's actually never no ticket, it was no citation, it was an abandoned vehicle tag, right?
Yes, it's a tow tag. After so many days, it gets towed if it's not moved.
Wow, somebody did not do.
So for my own understanding, what is gonna be the just general difference in a criminal and a civil court?
In the civil court, you're recovering damages. You're asking the judge to give you damages. You're asking for money from the person you're suing to cover your damages, the wrong that he has caused you. It's by a preponderance of the evidence. So 51% wins either side. Whatever the judge feels the best side that has presented their case, they will win. If the defendant wins, he doesn't have to pay. If the plaintiff, which would be us, wins, then the defendant has to pay us and our attorney fees, if so ordered by the judge. A civil trial or a civil court or civil case is to recover damages. A criminal case is to hold people responsible for a criminal act, speeding, shooting someone. And that is the city or the state or society as a whole, you know, is the victim on that, as well as the person that's personally hurt. And so people go to jail or pay fines to pay their debt to society in general.
So
that's the
again,
difference. And that requires a very high standard. That's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not, there can be a little bit of doubt, but it can't be very much or you'll lose.
And why don't you consult with the attorney and get better legal advice? I think that would be our next step. And I think they will do better recommendation.
As far as pursuing it either criminally or civilly?
Yeah, because that's the one who knows the law, and he should be able to give us those sense of direction. That's what it gets paid for.
or if we follow the mayor's recommendation of towing it to his house, can we get an escort?
Well, you know, I might go along and take pictures on my phone, but that's, I have no authority outside city limits.
Well, I appreciate it, Chief. I appreciate your opinion and thank you for those definitions and understandings.
Do you have anything else?
No, I'd just like to thank Randy for
Thank you,
taking the time to come
Randy.
down here
Yeah,
and explain.
we appreciate it
I
very
appreciate
much.
it.
Not seeing you again.
Yeah.
Good to see you all. I wish you well.
We got the good documents. That's good. The
Yeah.
research, you've done all the work for us. So.
If I could make one last recommendation.
Sure.
Yeah, I think, you know, maybe a strongly worded letter, you know, saying, okay, if you don't do this, we're prepared to do that. And I think based on, you know, the previous discussions I had with him, he realized, you know, that somebody will follow through. And maybe that's the way you engage him or his attorney. I don't know if his attorney still represents him, but,
Maybe we can work on one together.
That's my thought. I mean, I don't want to get too optimistic on it. I mean, based on his previous, with Randy dealing with him previously, but my dad always told me the worst thing to do is tell you no. Maybe he's surprised he could get it. I highly doubt it, but we could at least try it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks a lot, Randy. I really appreciate
I
it.
look forward to reading in the Quake County Sun that it's been taken care of.
We did too. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn. No, we don't have to do it right.
If off your batteries are fixing to die.
Oh, I'm changing it all.
And probably maybe you want to look at your ordinances.
Yeah, I think so. That's one of our main things we need to do.